Pokémon. Race to Danger. Chapter 1. An Angry Challenge. What's over that hill? Ash Ketchum wondered aloud. Ash pushed back the red cap that he wore over his dark hair and squinted into the morning sun. He and his friends had been walking along a green, hilly path for hours. But now he could see bright bursts of color in the distance. Brock shaded his eyes. "It looks like a bunch of hot air balloons," said the older boy. "Maybe it's some kind of festival." "Cool," said Misty. "Let's check it out." Ash couldn't help smiling at his friends. Since his 10th birthday, Ash had been on an exciting journey to catch and train Pokémon. Brock and Misty had been with him since the beginning. Their journey had taken them all the way to the far-off Orange Islands. Brock had left them for a while to study Pokémon breeding with an expert named Professor Ivy. Ash and Misty decided to explore the Orange Islands on their own. They had some help from a Pokémon watcher named Tracy Sketchit. Ash had many adventures on the Orange Islands. He saw strange new Pokémon. He captured a Lapras and a Snorlax. He even earned some new badges by battling gym leaders on the Orange Islands. Now their Orange Islands adventures were over. Ash was sad to say goodbye to Tracy. But it was nice to be back with Brock again. It felt like old times. And Ash knew that Brock and Misty were usually up for anything. "I'd love to see a balloon festival," Ash told them. "We need to take a break anyway." "Pika," agreed Ash's Pokémon, Pikachu. The small yellow electric-type Pokémon had a tail shaped like a lightning bolt, pointy ears and bright red cheeks. Ash carried his other Pokémon in red and white Pokeballs. But not Pikachu. It always walked alongside Ash. Another Pokémon that never traveled. In a Pokeball was Misty's Togepi. This tiny Pokémon hatched from an egg and still wore the eggshell around its little round body. Misty usually carried the baby Pokémon in her arms. "These balloons are pretty amazing," Ash said as they got closer. Wicker baskets where passengers could ride were attached to the large balloons. Chew ropes attached to steel anchors in the ground kept the balloons from floating away. The balloons were lined up along a winding river. Ash counted 8 balloons. Each of them was decorated with different colorful designs. A banner reading "Pokémon Balloon Race Today" flew overhead. The banner got Ash's attention. "Pokémon Balloon Race?" he wondered. "I've got to find out what this is about." Spectators crowded the balloon field. Vendors selling souvenirs, food and drinks were lined up on the north side. Pikachu sniffed the air hungrily. Its stomach growled. "Pika?" asked the Pokémon, pointing to a food stand. "You're hungry now?" Ash asked. "Can't we look around a little first?" Misty stepped up next to Ash. "I'm hungry, too," she said. "And so is Togepi. Why don't I take Pikachu and Togepi for a snack? We'll catch up with you in a few minutes." "Pikachu," Pikachu said happily. "Togi Togi," gurgled the baby Pokémon. "Good idea," Ash said. "Brock and I will take a closer look at some of the balloons." "How about it, Brock?" Brock nodded. "Sounds good to me." Misty took Pikachu's hand. Ash watched as they walked away and Misty's orange ponytail disappeared into the crowd. "Which one do you want to check out first?" Ash asked Brock. "How about that one?" Brock suggested. He pointed to a balloon decorated with an orange Pokémon that looked like a winged dragon. Ash recognized it, a Dragonite. Standing next to the balloon was a girl about Brock's age. She had long blonde hair and wore a light blue t-shirt and jeans. Ash smiled. I bet I can guess why you may want to see that one, Ash teased his friend. Brock had a weakness for pretty girls. Brock blushed. Let's go, he said. Ash and Brock approached the girl. Hi, I'm Ash, Ash introduced himself. And this is my friend, Brock. Are you entering the race? Brock gave the girl his biggest smile. But the girl didn't smile back. In fact, she looked upset. I'm Windy, she said glumly. I was in the race. But not anymore. What do you mean? Ash asked. What's wrong? Your balloon looks great. Windy frowned. It's not my balloon. It's my crew, she explained. Each balloon needs at least 2 trainers and 2 Pokémon to race. My brother Storm was going to ride with me. Last night, he was exercising my Pokémon when they all fell into a pit in the field. They were all hurt, and now they're recovering in the Pokémon Center. I can't race without a crew. Brock looked up at the balloon. It's a shame. Your balloon is really nice. It's terrible, Windy said. Now I won't get a chance to win Dratini. Ash's eyes lit up in excitement. Dratini? That Pokémon is really rare. Ash knew the small blue dragon Pokémon was especially hard to find. Ash took out Dexter, his Pokédex. The handheld computer had information about all kinds of Pokémon. Dratini, a dragon Pokémon, Dexter said. For years, people thought Dratini was just a myth. But a small colony was found living at the bottom of the ocean. That's Dratini, all right, Windy said. She sighed. I've been searching for one ever since I got my Pokémon trainer's license, she said. This may be my only chance to ever train one. And now I've lost it. If it isn't whiny Windy. Ash spun around at the sound of the loud voice. A teenage boy stood behind them with a mean look on his face. The boy had shiny black hair and wore a silver jumpsuit. Leave me alone, Jet, Windy said. The boy sneered. You were so sure you were going to win this race, Jet said. And now you can't even get off the ground. I bet you're relieved, Windy replied. You. No, there's no way you could beat me. Jet sneered. Give me a break. You couldn't beat me if you were flying a rocket ship. Ash didn't like this guy one bit. Hey, why don't you leave Windy alone? Ash asked. He stepped up to the bully. Jet glared at Ash. Hey! Are you talking to me, Pipsqueak? That's right. Ash said angrily. And I'm no Pipsqueak. We'll see about that, Jet said. He took a Pokeball off his belt. Let's settle this with a Pokémon battle. You got it. Ash replied. He was always ready for a Pokémon battle. How about one-on-one? Jet asked. Ash nodded. Jet threw his Pokeball in the air. Fearow, go, he yelled. Chapter 2. Who's afraid of Fearow? The Pokeball burst open. White light flashed everywhere. Fearow, exclaimed Jet. A normal and flying-type Pokémon exploded from the ball, squawking and flapping its huge wings. The brown Pokémon had a long tan beak and savage-looking claws. Ash knew that Fearow was hard to beat. It could fly through the air for a long time without having to rest. But Ash was feeling confident. He also knew that Fearow were weak against electric-type Pokémon. Pikachu, I choose you! Ash cried. Ash waited for Pikachu's battle cry. It didn't come. Ash, Brock reminded him, Pikachu's with Misty, remember? Ash groaned. I forgot. He had always counted on Pikachu when he went into battle. Ash had to change his strategy. What Pokémon could he use to beat Fearow? Bulbasaur, I choose you! Ash cried, throwing a Pokeball. A grass and poison-type Pokémon that looked like a dinosaur appeared. The blue-green Pokémon had a big plant bulb on its back. Ash had had a lot of practice using Bulbasaur's attacks. Bulbasaur, use your Vine Whip. Ash commanded. Bulba, cried Bulbasaur. The tough little Pokémon opened up the plant bulb. 2 long green vines shot out. They lashed at Fearow like 2 angry whips. Fearow, use your agility! Jet ordered his Pokémon. Fearow swooped and dived in the air, dodging the vines with ease. Ash knew he'd have to try harder. Bulbasaur, Razor Leaf! Ash yelled. A barrage of sharp green leaves flew out of Bulbasaur's plant bulb, headed right for Fearow. Ash smiled confidently. The attack's razor leaves always met their mark and were always effective when they hit. But Jet didn't look worried. Mirror move, Fearow! Jet called out. Fearow flapped its wings and rose above the attacking leaves. The leaves scattered harmlessly to the ground. At the same time, Fearow flapped its wings some more. To Ash's amazement, sharp green leaves whipped up from the ground and headed right for Bulbasaur. Fearow is copying Bulbasaur's attack, Brock warned. Like Ash, Bulbasaur was too stunned to react quickly. The leaves smacked hard into Bulbasaur. The grass-type Pokémon was dazed, but not hurt. But Fearow wasn't finished. It looked at Bulbasaur, a gleam in its eye. The Pokémon swooped down and picked up Bulbasaur in its sharp claws. No! Ash cried. Fearow flew up in the air. Bulbasaur roared in protest, but Fearow didn't listen. Ash didn't know what to do. Bulbasaur was helpless in Fearow's clutches. Fearow, the Pokémon squawked, and Ash swore he saw it smile. Fearow released its grip on Bulbasaur in midair, sending the Pokémon hurtling down. Crash! Bulbasaur slammed into the ground. Bulbasaur, are you all right? Ash asked. Bulbasaur groaned softly. It was okay, but in no shape to battle. Looks like I win, Jet said smugly. Ash sighed. I guess so. And I'm going to win this balloon race, too, Jet said. He looked at Windy. Too bad your little friend can't help you. Jet called Fearow back into its Pokeball and walked off. Misty walked up with Togepi and Pikachu. The 2 Pokémon were eating candy apples. Did I miss something? Misty asked Ash. It looked like there was a battle going on. There was, and I wish Pikachu had been here, Ash said. Why didn't you show up 5 minutes ago? You could have beaten him without Pikachu, Brock said. I've seen you beat guys like him before. You should have called on Charizard. Ash stamped his foot in the dirt. Of course. Charizard is a flying-type Pokémon, too. It would have been a better match, Ash said. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I just got confused when I couldn't use Pikachu. And Jet was making me so angry. Windy patted Ash's shoulder. Don't worry about it, Ash. I have a hard time thinking clearly when Jet's around, too. He's good at psyching out opponents. I guess, Ash said. He introduced Misty to Windy and told Misty how Windy couldn't enter the race. It's too bad you won't have a chance to race Jet, Misty remarked. I'd like to see somebody beat him. I would, too, Windy said. But my brother was supposed to ride with me. So were my Vulpix and Butterfree. But they're all injured. I can't race without a crew. We could be your crew, Brock said. You can borrow our Pokémon, too. Sure, Brock said, blushing. I mean, if Windy wants us to. Windy's eyes lit up. Are you kidding? That would be great. Have you guys ever flown in a hot air balloon before? No, Brock admitted. But we're fast learners. That's good enough for me, Windy said. She turned to the others. Are you guys in? Sure, Misty said. It sounds like fun. Count me in, Ash said. But to himself, he thought, at least I'll have another chance to beat Jet. Chapter 3. Ready, set, race. Great, Windy said. We'd better get ready. She climbed into the basket. There are 3 major parts of a balloon, Windy explained. The first part is this basket. That's where the passengers ride. Next, Windy pointed to the balloon. That part is called the envelope. When the air inside gets heated, it rises. How does it heat up? Ash asked. Windy patted a round platform in the center of the basket. That's the third part, she explained. Some balloonists use a U-burner fueled by propane. But in balloons like this one, a fire-type Pokémon sits here and shoots flames up into the envelope, heating the air in there. Hot air makes the balloon rise. Okay, I get how the balloon goes up, Ash said. But what makes it move forward? Good question, Windy said. I can't really steer the balloon. Wind moves it forward. But there are different layers of wind. So if I want to change direction or move faster, I can move up or down to find a layer of wind that will take me where I want to go. Misty looked fascinated. That's amazing! So how can we help? Well, let's talk about Pokémon first, Windy said. I used my Vulpix to heat up the balloon. Do any of you guys have a fire-type Pokémon I could use? You can use my Vulpix, Brock quickly offered. He opened up a Pokeball, and a reddish Pokémon that looked like a fox popped out. Vulpix, squeaked the Pokémon in a high voice. Windy examined the Vulpix. This is a beautiful Pokémon, she said. You've done a great job raising it. Thanks, Brock said, blushing again. My Vulpix was specially trained to fuel the balloon, Windy said. Do you think yours is up to the challenge? Brock nodded. You can count on it. Great, Windy said. I have to replace my Butterfree, too. I need Pokémon that can fly ahead and test the air currents for me. Ash threw a Pokeball in the air. A normal and flying type Pokémon with brown and white feathers appeared in a burst of light. How about my Pidgeot? Ash asked. Perfect, said Windy. Ash smiled, happy that Pidgeot was on his team. Not long ago, Pidgeot had left him to help some other flying-type Pokémon that needed it. Pidgeot had rejoined Ash when he returned from the Orange Islands, and he was glad to have it back. "What about us?" Brock asked. "Can we ride with you, too?" "Misty and Ash can ride with me," Wendy said. She turned to them. "You can help me direct the Pokémon, and you'll be here to back me up in case anything happens." "Pika?" Pikachu asked. Wendy laughed. "You too, Pikachu." "What about me?" Brock asked eagerly. Wendy fished into her pocket and pulled out a set of car keys. "See that van over there?" she asked, tossing her head. Brock nodded. "I need you to be my chase crew," she said. "Follow our route on the ground. When it's time to land, make sure the landing site is clear." "Think you can handle that?" "Sure," Brock said, but Ash knew he was disappointed not to ride in the balloon with them. Brock brightened up a little, though, when Wendy explained that he'd be in constant contact with them thanks to a radio in the van. "We can do this," Ash said. "I can't wait for this race to start." At Ash's words, a woman's voice blared loudly over a microphone. Ash looked. A woman in a blue suit stood on top of a platform. "All contestants for the balloon race, please enter your balloons," the woman said. "Starting time is in 5 minutes." Ash, Wendy, Togepi, and Pikachu took their places inside the basket. "Welcome to the Pokémon balloon race," said the announcer. "Each of our balloon teams are made up of trainers and their Pokémon. Let's meet the teams." Ash snapped to attention. He was curious to see what kinds of Pokémon the teams were using. "First, we have Team Jet," said the announcer. Ash looked at Jet's balloon. It had pictures of 3 winged Pokémon on it, a Venomoth, a Fearow, and a Scyther. 2 boys in leather jackets shared the basket with Jet. A Charmeleon fueled the balloon. Jet's Fearow sat in the balloon basket, ready for action. Next is Team Pokeball. Their balloon was designed to look like a giant Pokeball. The team's Fire-type Pokémon was a Charmander, and its Flying-type Pokémon was a Pidgey. In spot number 3, we have Team Farfetch'd. This balloon was painted with a Farfetch'd, a Flying-type Pokémon. A real Farfetch'd was on the crew, along with a Vulpix. Vulpix are popular with many hot air balloonists, Wendy explained. Next, Team Midnight. This team's balloon looked like a night sky, with a moon and stars. Instead of a fire-type Pokémon, the balloon was powered by a propane burner. Clefairy, a friendly pink Pokémon with pointy ears, worked the burner. A Zubat waited in the flying-type Pokémon position. Team number 5 is Team Jigglypuff. This balloon was bright pink, and was painted to look like a Jigglypuff. A real Jigglypuff worked the propane burner. A Spearow circled the balloon, waiting for the race to start. Team Golbat is number 6. A large painting of a Golbat, a flying-type Pokémon that looked like a fierce blue and purple bat, decorated the 6th balloon. A real Golbat hung upside down from the bottom of the balloon. And Growlithe fueled the balloon envelope. In the number 7 spot, Team Meowth. This team's balloon had the face of a Meowth, a Scratch Cat Pokémon, on it. Inside the balloon basket were 2 people wearing goggles, caps, and scarves around their necks. A Meowth in goggles worked the propane burner. Weezing, a poison-type Pokémon that looked like a cloud, floated alongside them. Misty nudged Ash. "Doesn't Team Rocket travel in a Meowth balloon?" she asked. "Yeah," Ash replied. A trio of Pokémon thieves known as Team Rocket was always chasing them and trying to snatch Ash's Pikachu. "But their balloon blew away the time they chased us over that snowy mountain, remember?" And besides, the people in that balloon don't look like Team Rocket. The announcer said they were called Team Meowth. Misty shrugged. I guess you're right. But it seems kind of suspicious to me. The MC pointed to Wendy's balloon. Finally, we have Team Dragonite. Ash waved to the crowd as they cheered and clapped. He smiled and turned to Wendy. She looked happy and confident. The MC continued. The test balloon we sent out earlier landed at the foot of Ariel Mountain, she said. The captain of the first balloon to reach the landing spot there will win the grand prize. The woman motioned to the river. Dratini, she called out. The river water began to ripple. A blue-gray head shyly emerged from the water. The Pokémon slowly rose up and began to swim on the surface of the water. It had a smooth body with a long tail and large ears. Dratini did a happy flip in the water as the crowd cheered. Wow! Ash said. It's beautiful, said Misty. And it's going to be mine, Wendy said. Thanks to you guys. The woman on the platform held a starter pistol in the air. Ready, everyone, she said. On your marks, get set, go. Chapter 4. Full of hot air. Brock untied the anchor ropes. Now, Vulpix. Wendy commanded. Vulpix shot a stream of fire up into the balloon. The envelope began to swell with hot air. Ash looked anxiously at the other balloons. Some of them were filling up faster than Wendy's. Jet's balloon was even starting to lift off the ground. Can't we do this any faster? Ash asked Wendy, feeling a bit impatient. Don't worry, Ash, Wendy said. Vulpix is just warming up. But I know it's going to do a great job. Jet's balloon started to soar away. So long, losers. Jet called to them. We're right behind you. Ash yelled. Just you, Oa. The balloon lurched and began to rise into the air. Misty held Togepi tightly. Brock quickly ran over to the van and started the engine. See you at the finish line, Brock. Ash called out. Misty and Togepi waved to Brock. One by one, the other balloons lifted off and glided across the field. Ash looked down. The people in the crowd looked smaller and smaller. This is awesome! Ash exclaimed as the cold wind stung his cheeks. We're gonna win this race. I know it! Ash wasn't the only one feeling confident. Across the field, the crew of Team Meowth cheered and clapped. There was a teenage girl whose long red hair was tucked into her flight cap. There was also a teenage boy whose green eyes peered out from behind his goggles. And there was Meowth, a white Pokémon. It was Team Rocket, of course. This trio of Pokémon thieves was always up to no good. Today was no different. Jessie, the girl, waved at the crowd below. These disguises are genius, she said. Blue, no one would guess that we're really the cleverest Pokémon thieves around, added James, the boy. Meowth. You can say that again, said Meowth, the Pokémon. Jessie took out a pair of binoculars and eyed the Dratini. I can't wait until we win that Dratini, she said greedily. The boss will be so pleased when we bring it to him. It will make up for the utter humiliation we suffered the last time we brought him a Dratini, James said. Yeah, added Meowth. It turned out to be a double-crossing Ditto instead. It would be so nice to have a real Dratini. James said with longing. Jessie grinned. We'll get it, thanks to my plan. Digging that pit outside Wendy's campsite was a brilliant idea. Wendy was the favorite to win the race. Without her crew, she can't race, and we'll win for sure. Meowth nudged Jessie. Isn't that Wendy over there? The Pokémon pointed to the balloon with the Dragonite painted on it. Jessie scowled. How is she flying without her Pokémon? James focused the binoculars on the balloon. Oh, no, he cried in dismay. I don't believe it. Jessie grabbed the binoculars. Give me those, she snapped. She looked at the balloon. Then she gasped. It's that troublemaking twerp, Ash, and his high-flying friends, she cried. They're going to ruin everything, Bonning Drat. James said. I thought we were going to sail off into the sunset. But now we'll just be blasting off again. You sound like a balloonatic. Meowth said. This is just what we need. Jessie's eyes lit up. You mean? Meowth nodded. That's right. If we make sure Wendy's balloon goes down, hind down, down, we can escape up, up and away with Pikachu. And then we'll be poised to win the Dratini. James added. What are we waiting for? Jessie asked. She took out a Pokeball. Wendy's balloon was starting to fly past Team Rocket's balloon. Just a little closer, Jessie said. Here, balloon, coaxed Meowth. Nice balloon. As if obeying their command, Wendy's balloon floated closer to them. Arbok, go! Jessie yelled. She hurled a Pokeball through the air. A huge Pokémon that looked like a hooded purple cobra appeared in a blaze of light. Arbok had sharp fangs and a dangerous poison sting. Arbok, take down that balloon, Jessie said. Arbok whizzed across the sky. It opened its mouth and bared its long fangs threateningly. Suddenly, a gust of wind sprang up. Wendy's balloon surged forward. Team Jigglypuff's balloon floated in front of Arbok. Arbok couldn't control its flight path. It collided with the Jigglypuff balloon. Jiggly! Jiggly! The Jigglypuff inside the balloon pointed and cried out in alarm. Arbok's fangs ripped into the nylon envelope, tearing open a jagged hole in the top of the balloon. Arbok, return! Jessie cried. Fangs a lot, Arbok, Meowth said. The Pokémon disappeared back into its Pokeball. But the crew of the Jigglypuff balloon wasn't so lucky. The balloon slowly sank to the ground as the air leaked out of the hole. No fair, James said. That should have been Wendy's balloon. But Jessie smiled an evil smile. It doesn't matter, Jessie said. We've just eliminated part of the competition. 1 down, 6 more to go. Chapter 5. Beedrill attacks. What's happening behind us? Misty asked. Ash spun around. Team Jigglypuff's balloon was slowly sinking to the ground. They're falling, Ash cried. He turned to Wendy. Can we help them? Wendy shook her head. I'm not sure what went wrong, she said. But these things happen all the time. It's part of the sport. It looks like they've got it under control, though. They'll land safely. Wendy picked up the radio receiver. What happened to the Jigglypuff crew, Brock? She asked. They're okay, Brock replied. Looks like a safe landing. Great, Wendy said. Over. Over, returned Brock. That's good, Ash said, but for the first time, he felt a little nervous. From a distance, balloon racing looked like fun. Now that he was in the thick of it, he realized how dangerous it could be. Wendy saw his worried look. She smiled. Relax, Ash, she said. We're going to be fine. I've been flying these things since I was a little girl. Really? Misty asked. Yes, Wendy said. I grew up on Ariel Mountain. She pointed ahead. Ash could just see the mountain's tall peak behind cotton candy clouds. Wendy continued. I lived up there with my parents. They were balloonists and loved to be close to the sky, Wendy said. But it was lonely sometimes. Didn't you have any friends? Misty asked. Wendy shook her head. Not really. I used to sit outside and stare at the clouds, she said. I learned a lot about flying-type Pokémon that way. And then one day I saw the most beautiful flying-type Pokémon of all. She looked up at her balloon. You mean a Dragonite? Ash asked. Wendy nodded. It flew past the clouds one day. I had to rub my eyes. I thought I was dreaming. So that's why you want to win the Dratini, Misty realized. Yes, Wendy said. I'll devote my life to raising that Dratini. If I'm lucky, it might evolve into Dragonair. And then, finally, Dragonite. That would be awesome, Ash said. He remembered when his Caterpie evolved into Metapod, and then finally a beautiful Butterfree. It was an amazing experience. Wendy smiled. I'll take such good care of that Dratini, she said. Then she looked out at Jet's balloon. Her face clouded. I can't say the same about Jet. He's pretty tough on his Pokémon. That's another reason why I want to win this race. Ash saw that Jet was still ahead of them. Is there anything we can do to catch up? Wendy motioned to Pidgeot. Can you send out Pidgeot? Maybe there's a faster current we can try. Sure, Ash said. He told Pidgeot what to do. Pidgeot! The flying-type Pokémon flew off the balloon, soaring high into the sky. Then it circled back and swooped down, below the balloon. Finally it landed back in the basket. Pidgeot, Pidgeot, squawked the Pokémon. Pidgeot says there's a fast current about 10 feet below us, Ash told Wendy. Excellent! Wendy said. Vulpix, lower your flame a little. The fire-type Pokémon obeyed. Slowly, the balloon started to drop. This is a nice current, Wendy said. If we're lucky, we can ride it all the way to Ariel Mountain. Ash relaxed a little. Wendy sounded confident. The sun was shining. And below, Ash saw that they were flying over a field of colorful flowers. Wild Butterfree twirled and dipped in the sky below them. Ash took a deep breath of the cool air. He checked out the other racers. Now Wendy's balloon had a slight lead over the rest, although Jet's balloon was close behind. The other balloons were keeping up, too. Then Ash felt something pulling on his leg. Pikachu was trying to get his attention. The Pokémon's pointy ears were twitching. Pikachu! Pika Pika! Pikachu said worriedly. Ash looked around. Everything seemed to normal as far as he could tell. Pikachu, what is it? Ash asked. Then he heard it. A low buzzing sound. The dense hum was growing louder and louder. Do you hear that? Ash asked his friends. Windy leaned over the balloon basket. Could be trouble, she said calmly. Ash followed her gaze. It looked like some kind of blanket was rising above the flower field. A buzzing, humming blanket. The blanket rose higher and higher into the sky. Now Ash could make out shapes. Dro black and yellow shapes with red eyes, gray wings, and sharp stingers. It's a swarm of Beedrill! Ash yelled, shocked. There were hundreds of them. They must be attracted to the bright colors of the balloons, Misty said. Now the swarm started to fly sharply on into the sky. In perfect formation, the Beedrill headed for the balloon shaped like a pokeball. Ash watched in horror as the Beedrill covered the top of the balloon. The red and white balloon was now black and yellow. A loud hissing sound filled the air. The Beedrill have punctured the other team's balloon. Misty cried. As the balloon deflated, it slowly sank down to the field of flowers. The Beedrill rose up from the damaged balloon. Now they took aim at Team Galbot's balloon. The crew screamed and tried their best to frighten the Beedrill away. It didn't work. Once again, the Beedrill covered the top of the balloon. Hiss! The balloon started sinking to the ground. The Beedrill flew off the Galbot balloon in perfect formation. They took aim once again. But who would be their next victim? Ash tensed as hundreds of red bead